Hello, my most amazing artist. We are starting our very first project, and the title of it is Crystal Clusters. We're going to be using the elements of art to create these clusters of crystals. And the two main things that we're focusing on are line and shape. Okay, so these are the elements of art: line, shape, color, value, form, space, and texture. All right, the elements of art are kind of like an artist's tool when creating a work of art. So as you can see in this work of art, the artist is using a lot of elements of art. Can you see which ones they are using? Definitely line, definitely shape, color, and that's about it. But that's cool because what we're working on today is line and shape, all right? So so our first focus for this project is line and shape. Here are some lines. We are going to be working primarily with straight lines, okay? Diagonal straight lines are what we are going to be mainly working with. Maybe some parallel when they are right next to each other but not crossing, okay? And if you want, there is a really cool video for you to watch. We're not going to watch it together, but it's there for you, and it's all about geometric and organic shapes, okay? Geometric shapes are symmetrical. That means if you cut it in half, it is the same on both sides. So if I were to draw an imaginary line through this rectangle or through this triangle, all of these shapes, if I drew an imaginary line, we would see that the left side is the same as the right side. So those are called geometric shapes. Organic shapes are more random, okay? They're not symmetrical, all right? So if I was to cut this shape in half, it is definitely not the same on both sides. So that's how you can tell if a shape is geometric or organic. Okay, so now it is time for us to start drawing our crystal cluster. This is a cluster of crystals that this is actually a drawing of one that has inspired our project. As you can see, this artist is using a lot of lines, different shapes, okay? So what you will definitely need to get started on your project is a piece of paper and a pencil, okay? It does not matter what kind of paper you are using. It could be white paper, it could be purple, whatever you want, okay? It could be lined notebook paper. Anything you have will work, okay? And a pencil, okay? We're just gonna stick with a pencil today. Next week, we will work with a different material, okay? And this is not necessary, but if you want, you can use a ruler, okay? It'll help you getting your lines straight, all right? So the first thing that we're gonna do is just start drawing lines, okay? And we're going to be making diagonal lines, which means instead of going straight up and down, they are angled a little bit to the side, okay? So I'm going to start with my biggest cluster right in the middle, or my biggest crystal right in the middle. So what I'm going to do is draw a short diagonal line right there, and another one on the other side. If I want my crystals to look a little bit more random and not so perfect, then I could make one line longer than the next one. And these crystals that I'm using as a reference, they're pretty long. So I am going to bring it almost all the way down to the end of my paper. We're going to put tinier crystals down here, but our bigger crystals are more towards the top. And if you notice, I drew these two longer lines tapering in a little bit. So these are also diagonal, so it looks like it's getting skinnier as it's going down, okay? Now, let's draw some more crystals on the side here. So that's like the basic shape of our crystal, okay? And like I said, we're gonna do smaller ones down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my bigger ones, and then I will show you the next step after I get done doing that. Okay, so I have like my three main crystals here, and I want to layer some, so I'm actually just going to draw right on top of these. So I will do another diagonal line to do my basic shape here, right on top, and whatever lines I don't need, I can erase, because I don't like when it has these gaps. If you notice in the cluster, they are very close together. So that's what I'm going to try to do, to make them look like they grew all at once, okay? So after you draw it on top, I can go back with my eraser and erase the lines I drew for the other gems. bring it down off the page. When you're doing your little crystals down here, you can just bring them right off the page so it doesn't look like our crystal cluster is floating. Okay. And since I drew over top of this crystal, I'm just going to erase that line that I don't need anymore. Okay. And you can do as many or as little crystals that you want, but just remember, a crystal cluster is a cluster, so it's many. There is my cluster of crystals, but these shapes look really flat. I want my crystals to look like my reference picture that I'm using. And if you notice, theirs looks more three-dimensional because they were using shading, and we'll talk about that more another day. But right now, let's focus on the lines that they're using. Here, let me bring it up bigger so you can see. Let's focus on the lines that they're using inside of the shapes to make it look more three-dimensional. Okay? So how we do that is we have to draw more lines inside of our shapes here. Okay? And it's going to be the same almost for everyone, or it can be random, I guess, if you wanted to, because honestly, if you look at the reference picture, all of these lines are a little bit random. Okay? So just follow your instincts. You can look up crystal clusters too and see what you think looks cool and use that as inspiration. Okay, so if you notice, I just closed that shape off with two diagonal lines going up and then down again. To make it look more three-dimensional, we need to connect these two lines. Okay. And guys, yours should look different than mine, okay? Don't copy exactly what I'm doing. Take what I'm doing and make it your own, okay? That is the whole point of art, is to be creative and be yourself, be original. Then you're going to want to draw one long line going all the way down your shape. And as you can see, this crystal looks a lot more three-dimensional than these ones. All the other ones look pretty flat, okay? And like I said, you can put as many or as little of these lines in as you want to make it look like an actual crystal. So you can keep adding them, but you'll want to make sure the lines that you draw inside of your shape kind of follow the same line that you already made. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. Let's use this one as an example. So this time I went up with my two lines connecting my triangle up here. Now I'll go down. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm connecting it to the corners, bringing it down to the middle of my shape, just like that. So when I draw my longer one going down, I'm not going to draw it through my other crystals. I'm going to stop where that crystal starts. Okay, so I'm drawing this line down. I'm not going straight up and down. Okay, let me show you what that would look like. See, if I drew that straight up and down, it would look kind of wonky. You want those lines to follow these two lines that you've already made for your shape. So it looks like the crystal is going all in the same direction. Okay, that looks a lot more natural. And you're going to want to connect the top line, or the top corner here, to this one to make it look more three-dimensional. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that to all of my other shapes, and I will show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, guys, this is the finished drawing for today. That's all we're going to do. Don't forget to complete your end of class activity. Next week, we are going to continue with our crystal cluster, so do not lose this drawing because you will need it for next week. All right, guys, have a fabulous time creating, and I will see you next time.